On March 31st, I will call the Clifton Independent Budget Workshop to order at 7:43 with all board members present, except for Mr. Montez, and there's no open forum. Fantastic. We're ready for item number 3 with topic of discussion.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Ms. Jones for giving me her Canva template, because Lisa is just a learner at Canva.
It looks great, Lisa.
Thank you.
We're proud of you. Good job.
Yes. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to do tonight is just give you an overview of the process of the budget, since there hasn't really been any change in decisions with the legislature as far as funding. It's kind of right now a copy from this year, a paste to next year, and then the decisions that are going to be made are what affects the budget and so forth. So I wonder if I can make it work. If you can see that. Currently it's a big old circle is what we do. For the 24-25 year, we're down in the far left corner of evaluation. For the 25-26, we're going to start the planning phase. The planning is review goals and objectives by our admin group. Look at the budget status, review projections. I usually take projections, basically what the current year ADA is, and copy, paste to next year and so forth. I'll spend the next 3 months or so developing or preparing for it, develop the school department and district-wide budget. We'll review and coordinate. I'll try to contact maybe some of the elementary, some of the middle schools, some of the high schools, see what are some items that are important to them this year. See if there's going to be any changes from the prior year, and then I'll ask you to adopt the budget in August. Implement it in September, and then we start the new year. Start by monitoring and evaluating, and like a big old circle, hamster on a wheel. So like I said, starting in April, we're going to do, I know there's some staffing updates. I think we currently have 9 openings as listed on our website. The question is, do we revise the salary schedule? What I try to do there is I compare it to other districts if they publish their starting salary schedule and see how we compare. Also, TASB issues a salary survey they put out. They put it out by teacher, by superintendent, and by every position that you can think of within a school district. I kind of gauge on, I can filter it by the size of our district as compared to others, or other school districts with just in Region 12 or surrounding areas. Then I'll download the summary of finance template. That's where you put in your ADA and your counts for special education, CATE funding counts, and so forth, and get kind of a good idea of what our state finances will be. And also our preliminary numbers from BCAD. Those we are obligated to receive the last week in April. So once I put all that together, I can get a rough idea of what our revenue will be, again, depending upon legislature. I'll spend the summer reviewing prior year expenditures for comparison. I try to download at least like the last 4 years of numbers for every single account, every expense that we've done. I kind of keep a running tally of, large expenditures that we've made that we don't need to do, one-time items, ongoing items, new items, so forth. We prioritize major purchases and needs. I'll basically get with Mr. Wallace with maintenance and see if he has any ideas or major renovations that we need to get done. I will then draft the fiscal budget and create some staffing expenditure scenarios like we talked about last year about, 1% raise, 2%, whatever we can do. In July and August, I will, at the last week in July, I'll get the certified numbers from BCAD. I have to submit those to TEA. TEA tells us what our maintenance and operations tax rate will be. Then we'll have another budget workshop and then adopt the budget by the 31st. Gosh, I always go up and down. So again, like we talked about, House Bill 2, I believe it's set to be discussed tomorrow. It's called the School Finance and Public Education Bill. Current basic allotment received per student is $6,160. That is set to change, we just don't know how much. It's anticipated to change.
And two different ones. One will be, the highest one that they're gonna talk about tomorrow was from the committee substitute bill, and it's up to 6,500, which would be about, they're talking about adding about $395 to it. But that's still in committee.
I keep going the wrong way. I'm still learning this Canva thing.
That 6160 is every district in Texas is the same per student.
Correct.
Yes. From there, as I've talked to you before, we have a summary of finance template. There's a very smart man at Region 13 named Omar Garcia, and it is a spreadsheet like you've never seen with 100 tabs that has 100 formulas on it. Right there, I'll put in the average daily attendance in all of our accounts from the prior year, just copy paste. It takes into account our certified numbers, our tax collection estimates, and all the funding that they decide on, I guess, come tomorrow, and will tell me approximately how much state funding we should anticipate. TEA also kind of throws out a preliminary summary of finance. They use ADA projections that I probably submitted 3 or 4 years ago. They calculate their own state property values based on what BCAD tells them, and a lot of prior year information they download. Just to show you kind of some comparisons on where we stand as far as revenue. The green is our local funding, the blue is what we received by state, and then the yellow is federal. Our federal, of course, has varied due to COVID spending from 20 all the way to this last year. No longer we have COVID, we're back to just our handful of 3 or 4 grants that we've received every single year. As you've seen in other material, if our property values, our property local revenue increases due to property values or so forth, the state funding decreases. There's really no extra other than the supplemental payments that we discussed tonight, as well as interest and so forth, something that they can't control due to your attendance and your values. Oh, what? So just to kind of show you where, if we were to look at cutting some items, if we were looking at saving, if we were looking at spending more items, this is what we have for this year. So 79% of our budget is payroll, $10.3 million out of the 13 that we've budgeted. What I usually do is I'll, again, look at staff. Do we replace people? Do we not? The things that drive that, of course, is their years of service. If we replace, a retired person that's been in the field for 30 years with somebody right out of school, that's a $20,000 difference. So it kind of depends on if we get anybody to apply these days, as well as their hiring and so forth. That all kind of varies. Payroll-wise, do we have new positions? Are we absorbing any positions? It just all kind of depends. And then from there, gauge what kind of raises, if any, that the other schools are doing. Contracted services, that's not only contracted services, it's our utilities. It's lots of items. For example, I'm trying to see where our contracted services, within that $1.4 million, $270,000 for the current year is the appraisal district. That's our fee that we have to pay for them, not something we really can negotiate. Our utilities, phone, internet, again, not something we really negotiate, $418,000 of that. So where we can cut is kind of limited on that area. Supplies, $727,000, that's instructional. That's all the way through the fuel we put in the buses. That's maintenance supplies just to keep the just to keep the lights on and keep the place running. Of that, technology, $144,000 this year. Instructional supplies and software was $266,000. Fuel and maintenance supplies, $182,000. Supplies just for extracurricular, band and athletics, $88,000. Again, not really sure where we can save that other than what we're already doing. The other item of $367,000, that's insurance. This year, that was $200 of the $367,000. I don't see any insurance going down these days. Meals and travel for staff and student was $66,000, and entry fees alone is $45,000 of that $367,000. Of the $197,000 that's remaining, those are just capital expenditures. Debt, we only have 2 leases, a copier, and a software agreement, multi-year software agreement of $38,000. Major expenditures, we always budget rather high for our HVAC replacement. Currently, it's $95,000. We have not spent much of that. Our maintenance department is very good. Of course, our air conditioners really haven't cut on yet. So they always say, wait till summer rolls around and they start dropping like flies. And then other improvements, we just kind of put a plug in there of $50,000. We've spent some of that as, we always have a water leak somewhere going on. The only item that is not included in this is the one exception of the $698,000 that we made a budget amendment for on the roof. So there will be a savings in there. Of course, our total cost for the roof is $250,000. So that will be something that we'll save for next year. But the one item that we did not have this year that we have had for several years now is every year we'll do a Chromebook replacement of a campus. That's to the tune of about $130,000. So there will be savings as far as no roof, but an added expenditure in there. So that's something to plan for as well. So I made it to there. Again, my next step is estimate the cost of the current staffing, make determinations of any other necessary expenditures that we foresee coming up in the next year. Ms. Jones and I kind of look at some instructional materials. Is some software good? Are the teachers using it? Can we, let one go? And it never ever do we get a quote saying that the price has gone down. So, and number 4, then determine the effects to general fund if any federal grants are ending. There will be one grant that will be ending, from what I understand, is our safety grant for this next year. We currently use the safety grant to pay for our Claris counselor, and as well as the guardian stipend. So that will be an additional cost, about $80,000, that is paid for by a grant this year that we will have to absorb next year. So, any questions? No?
Is that it?
That's it? Oh, yes.
Do you have any questions? I appreciate the presentation.
Yeah,
That's a lot. I'm very thankful you do all the numbers.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that.
That's why I get more strength in my glasses every single year. It's hard.
Mr. Bond, do you mind having her presentation posted in our board book
Yeah. it'd be
for
nice.
us to refer back to when we're
Yep.
knee-deep in her other budget talks?
Yes. we
Yeah,
can do that.
right.
We'll
That's
put it
great.
underneath this,
Great idea. Thank you.
this meeting right here. Sure will.
That would be great.
Great presentation.
Yeah.
I've never made one that looks that beautiful.
Well, I'm gonna give credit to Miss Jones, but I'm
I
gonna
made a
practice.
100 in my class.
But she had 20 slides. I cut it down to 8, so I told her I'll just take a 90 if that's. But I wasn't gonna bore you with 20, but I'll work further on that Canva tutorial.
We appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. This was great. Very informative. Do we have any other questions? If we do not have an executive session. Is there any future business? If not, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Willman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ritzman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 7:58.